Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've got Dolores Whelan and Karen Ward with me. These are devotees, dare I say, of St. Bridget, the Irish sort of goddess. Is that too strong a word?
No, not at all.
You're kind of strong. Women are goddesses anyway, because you're strong people, innately strong. You do great things. You control the world, because men don't realize it, but we walk to your drumbeat almost subconsciously.
Well, we like to think we're equal but different. But we thank you, because part of Bridget's Way being reenacted at this time is about that divine feminine and the femininity and women being recognised as that equal. But we're very different. Yeah. But it's the beauty of walking together. Yeah. And we've seen that with the pilgrims who've come, the men and women who walk together, the children, older, younger, of all different types of community.
And it is men and women together doing the walk from Falkirk, Bridget's home in Falkirk almost. Well, it's not almost, it is her home.
Falkirk, where she was born.
Where she was born, looking down south, and you're going all the way down to the Curragh of Kildare.
Where she set up her monastery.
A monastery.
And I mean, you know, when you talk about, you know, that women rule the world, I think way back when she was around, there were still lots and lots of problems. But I think the importance of Bridget, for me, and why Karen and I want to do this work, to actually, I suppose, bring her more alive in people's minds and hearts, is because she was a really strong woman who never took the attitude, there's nothing I can do about it. She always challenged what wasn't right, what wasn't in harmony, but she challenged it in a way that brought about transformation.
She was post-Patrick, wasn't she?
Well, I think
before.
I think she was post-Patrick.
Yeah. So Patrick came, Patrick went. Bridget was enthused by the message. Am I broadly right here? Of Patrick? No?
Well, there was a lot of... There are people who say that they met, maybe at the end of his time, the start of her time. They both very much, depending on what you read or believe, there was very much the old ancient traditions, but merged, because there's an awful lot of similarities. I think if you boil down many religions, the essence is similar. And so the Christian message that came through, and that's because now we think of her as Saint Bridget, whereas very much there's devotees to Goddess Bridget. But the similarities of the message of coming from that heart and soul place merge and dovetail. And because it's back in history, we don't know exactly how.
Remind people how far back we're going here to the Goddess Bridget.
Well, that would have been back to the time of Newgrange. I mean, Bridget is spoken about in Newgrange. She's spoken about in the time of the Celtic society, which was way post Newgrange. And as Karen said, she is the link between the pre-Christian and the Celtic Christian tradition. And it's like, if you don't understand, you cannot understand the Celtic spiritual story unless you understand that at its heart stands Bridget.
Why? Why? Explain that bit to me. It's fascinating.
She is the embodiment in both her goddess and her Christian form of the divine feminine, which was hugely important within all of the traditions of this country.
Dolores, tell me what you mean. It's a lovely phrase.
The divine feminine.
I want to know about that phrase.
Well, yeah, the divine feminine. First of all, there's the divine. Everything in the world has a masculine and a feminine aspect. In the more recent time of the last 3 or 4 millennium, we have become very, very patriarchal. Now, I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about a concept where we imagine that masculine is good, and because we live in an either-or culture, then by inference, feminine is not so good.
Yes, I understand that.
And so we're saying that in order to be balanced, we must be in touch with the energies of masculine and femininity as they exist in the universe. And you might like to
I have no problem with that concept, but take me to the divinity. What's the? Did she know she was divine?
Yes, she did.
Really?
Absolutely.
Because someone would ask the question: did Jesus know he was God?
Yes, he did.
Maybe he did. I don't know. But I mean, what's the evidence that Bridget knew she was God, a goddess?
Well, the evidence, as I see it, was that there's a lovely story where she's talking to St. Brendan, who was the great seafaring navigator. And the
Is
story...
it right or left for
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar? St. Brendan to the navigator said.
That's right, that's Christy Moore's version.
Inishfickalon in the island. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting
No,
you.
but anyway, the interesting story about Brendan is he's out off the coast of Dingle one day, and there are two dolphins fighting, or two whales they were fighting, and it looked like the smaller whale was going to be killed. And he called, he said, "Oh, I'll help," but the whale called on Bridget, not Brendan. So Brendan was a bit miffed. So when he came back to land, he went up to Kelly. He said, "I'm going to go and see this woman." And she said to him when he went, he said, "Make your confession to me," because that's what people did. And she said, "No, you make yours to me first."
Wow. She was putting the foot down.
Yeah, and then he said, the first thing she said to him was, "Brendan, tell me, do you think about God all the time?" And he said, "Well, yes, I do in a general kind of way, but I'm a very busy man and I have very important things to do." And she said, "Since the moment I fixed my mind on God, I have never taken it away." And then, Karen, you talk about the manifestations that comes from that.
In all of the myths and the legends about Bridget, what really speaks to me is she always found a way.
Yes.
And she found a way to give the other person choice. So one example would be her father said, "Right now it's time to marry." And he was a chieftain. And although she was his illegitimate daughter, he was very devoted to her and wanted her to marry well. And she said, "No, Father, I have other plans in life. I'm devoted to God." And he said, no, you must do this. I'm your father. This is what I say. So when all the suitors arrived, all these eligible young men thinking, "Whoa, we're getting the chieftain's daughter," she sat and she thought, "Now, how am I going to get out of this?" So the legend goes, she plucked her eye out. Now, she was a good-looking woman by all accounts. She plucked her eye out. So all these young men came in and thought, "Oh, this woman's mad." And they ran off. And her father went, okay, you don't have to marry, you can do your...
You knew it, yeah.
So she
put the eye back in again.
Then she goes down to the Curragh with all of her young followers.
Where you're going.
Where we're going.
Yes.
And she asks the King of Leinster, "Listen, I need a bit of land to have my monastery, my abbey."
Yes.
And of course he's like, this doting young woman, yeah, listen, you can have exactly the size of land that your cloak covers.
Wow.
Being a bit patronising, but like giving her what you want. And of course 4 of her followers took the edge of the cloak. And they walked and they walked, and the cloak stretched and it stretched. And suddenly it covered the Curragh. Yeah. So again, this King of Leinster went, "Oh, wow, yes, of course you can have it." So she found a way to let the other person have safe face, to use the expression we hear today, and give them choice. So both the king and her father decided, yes, you can follow your spiritual practice. Yes, you can have the land.
Yeah.
She didn't coerce anybody.
Yeah.
So she was very clever, but she was in her power.
But much as I love these stories, I think they're beautiful, they're great stories. I want to believe them, but I know they're mythology.
No.
There's a nonsense in them.
No.
Really?
No.
She plucked her eye out. She went with the cloak across the land.
Mythology is what expresses the deepest truth of any culture in the most essential form. That's what
so it's captured somehow inextricably in the weft
absolutely in the weft and weave of a story, and that's where all great spiritual traditions.
There's no smoke without fire.
Well, that's
so
true,
to speak.
but they tell stories.
Yeah.
And interesting what Karen was saying, that her capacity to do that, because I've done a lot of research on Bridget, and in one of the things that is so important is that she had very clear intention, and because she was aligned to God the Father, if you like the masculine, she was also aligned to God the Mother, the earth.
Yes.
So she was heavenly and earthly aligned. And because of that, this was able to come into her heart, these two, and she worked from her heart. Therefore, everything worked for her.
Yes.
This is what, and it's very interesting because in the modern equivalent who's doing this work are Jerry and Esther Hicks, and they talk about the power of manifestation. Bridget manifested everything she needed in perfect time.
What was her mission as she understood it, and whence did that mission come?
Well, I think her mission was to be a voice for difference, for change, for equality, for a more holistic way of living. The same voice as she has today. It's the same message.
But she wasn't giving the message of the Jesus Christ person,
Well,
of love your neighbour, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
She wasn't the mirror feminine image of Jesus.
Well, now it's very interesting because I don't know if you know Father Tom Hamlin.
I know Tom, surely.
Yeah.
How is Tom?
He's grounds.
Give him my regards,
I will
please.
indeed. Well, Tom has courageously stood in Ford Church for the last 3 St. Bridget's days and said, Bridget is the female Christ.
Wow.
And he has said that from the altar. So and it's very interesting because Bridget was known as Murray na Gael, Mary of the Irish, and she was known as the aid woman of Christ, of Mary. She is, in one of the stories, it said she was wafted away to Bethlehem to assist at the birth. Beautiful stories about her in Iona in Scotland, and one of the stories is about her going from Iona to Jerusalem, or Bethlehem, sorry, to assist
at the birth of Christ.
But you see, here's the thing, this is mythological, it's metaphorical. And Meister Eckhart, the great 14th century Christian mystic, says, it is of no consequence to me that Mary gave birth to the Son of God 1400 years ago if I am not giving birth to God in my life. So beautiful. Bridget it's about giving birth to the Godhead within.
Yes.
And that's and I think we don't know the details of her monastery. We know that there were 20 women who were in her monastery. We know they had a fire temple that was sacred to women. Do you want to say about that?
And also, from what we learn, in her monastery there were men and women. There was community, there were families, there were children.
Was there celibacy or not?
No
celibacy.
Not necessarily.
So we sort of don't eschew the business of our sexuality. We embrace it and we feel this is a gift from God.
But that was
none of the hypocrisy of now.
No, not at all.
And also, what was one beautiful theory, which I would subscribe to, is that the divinity of life, spirit, is everywhere. And as Dolores said, there's the masculine and feminine aspect. So I have a masculine aspect, you have a feminine aspect. But every so often, since millennia, a human is born that embodies the divine masculine, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, the divine feminine, Bridget,
Sophia,
Kuan Yin. So for us, that feminine was Bridget.
Is Bridget a reality in your lives, the pair of you?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I go to Ford so often. I stand with my feet in the stream and I pray to Bridget. I went there yesterday before the launch, on my way into the launch. Ford is such a beautiful place. The energy is magnificent there. But here's the thing.
They still got the lovely tree there with the people who went to put the little bits of clothing on the tree.
It's called it's called I can't remember what it's called. The strutty tree, I think. But the thing about it is, something becomes embodied in us when we take it on board. So I can read about God, I can read about Bridget, I can read about anything, and it remains an intellectual concept. Patrick Kavanagh once said, God can't catch us unless we rest in the unconscious room of our hearts. And that's where you find God. And the biggest journey that we make in our whole lives is the journey from the head to the heart. Especially in a culture like in 21st century Western culture, where everything is about the head and not even the entire brain, the left brain. We both were scientists before we got into it.
Were you?
Yeah, microbiologist, biochemist.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But all of this presupposes what we're saying about Bridget, that you guys believe in God.
I believe in God.
I believe in God.
The nearest I can say is I'm too intelligent not to believe in God.
Well, that's a good start.
But I'm equally too intelligent to believe in God. Therefore, I'm an optimistic agnostic.
I like that.
That's a good one.
Well,
it's a very personal journey.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love you say journey, because that's what it is.
It really is.
Because I went recently to, I did a deal with a reverend fellow. They were having an Alpha course. Have you heard of this?
Oh yes, I've heard of the Alpha course.
And I said, I will go to the Alpha course if you come in on the Friday after the Thursday night of the course and shoot the breeze with me for the
Okay.
9 weeks.
Okay.
And he did, and I did.
Excellent.
But I mean, the first thing that I did on the Alpha course, and this was and you alluded to it a moment ago, Dolores, the first thing I did on the Alpha course, when people were being asked about what they thought God was, I immediately said, a criminal against humanity.
Oh my God.
And all of the Christians waved their Bibles at me at the
I know.
Alpha course
Yeah.
and said, why? So I simply said, what kind of loving God is it that sends his own personal angel down to tell his family on earth, hightail it out of here because Herod's coming to get you, and doesn't tell the neighbours' children to get out as well? So he was happy enough for all the neighbours to be wiped out, but his own kept safe. But the thing about the Alpha
But they're
thing,
all
which-
his children.
yeah, but he was picking and choosing so very carefully. But the thing about the Alpha course that it did for me, and I think you came close to it a wee while ago there, was that I discovered that I don't need to develop the logic of that.
No.
I don't need
No.
to answer that question.
No, you don't.
Because it's beyond me.
But it's not just that it's beyond you, it's beyond mind, because what we're talking about is about love. And love is from the heart, not from the mind. And interesting, I saw something, where did I see this the other day? And it said, oh yes, I saw it in Dingle a few weeks ago. It said, intellect will bring you from A to B. Imagination will bring you everywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you see, the
Yeah.
intellect can know about God, but and one of the great things in the Celtic story is what's called the world, the imaginal world of the Celtic people, which is the region between the physical world and the spiritual world, where all the goddesses and gods there, and the Tuatha De Danann are part of that, the fairy realm, all of that. Now, people say, oh, that's just your imagination. It's a dimension of consciousness. You can't access it from the left brain. You must, and I know this because when I started this work 30 years ago, I was really left brain. I couldn't understand what they were talking about. I couldn't figure it out. You have to stop trying to figure it out.
That was my conclusion.
Well, that was a
And-
great, if that's
Brilliant.
what you
That was
learned from the
that was
I did all
Some
right. It was a big course.
But it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
So
because
that's not a bad realization.
No, it's
and
a
it's helped me since in delivering messages of peace to people
Yes, of course.
along the way. And
Yeah.
that's huge to so do. Which part of you, how much of, obviously your Celticism and your Christianity sit easily together.
They do for me now, because I have a teacher in Scotland who made that link for me. Her name is Fionn Thulloch on the Cayley Day tradition. And that was a huge piece for me, because people would say to me, are you a pagan? And I would go, no. Or people say to me, is what you teach pagan or Christian? And I would say, it's both. And because there was no break, and that's the great thing about Ireland. We did not have any martyrs. Christianity engaged with the pre-Christian Celtic tradition of the Druids.
And took what it wanted from it.
But it actually
And used
was like,
it at a practical level.
yeah, but it was
feasts
like,
and
but it was just like a turn of the spiral, a new
Yeah.
level of consciousness. Do you want to say
Yeah.
about that too? You know,
Yeah, but even your name, the
Rowan.
Druid
Rowan.
tree.
yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
sacred tree of the
Yeah.
Druids.
And well
For
dare
God.
anyone call me Ronan.
Oh, right.
I
so
stop them and I say, "Oh, sorry, you did send
I
me."
did. I
I'm
did the
sorry,
first one.
but
That's all right.
I was making no response to that
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
But I mean, because I do.
Well, Rowan-
There's something within me.
Yeah.
That thrills. That's the word I'm choosing.
Yes.
To be called after a red-berried tree that
Absolutely.
feeds birds.
And that is a protector in the Celtic tradition. It is used as a protection tree.
And it's a sacred tree.
Yeah.
A very key tree.
This is
Yeah.
actually very good for me because I have subconsciously, without understanding it, had this. First of all, there's no reason my mother should have ever thought of the name Rowan.
You know, it's an unusual
Her
name.
next name, my sibling, my next in line is. I hope he's not watching. Ignatius.
Oh, yes.
Can you imagine? I would. But I got Rowan from some mystical place.
Yes, you did.
And when I go to Africa and into India, in the bush of northwest Nigeria and in Tamil Nadu, I am like that with the people.
Yes.
There is a naturalness. There is an easy togetherness when I sit in their mud huts and be with them. And it's almost a Celticism.
But it is, and it's not. It's not
It's
even
an innate community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's native. It's.
Yes.
I would say that we are one of the
Indigenous.
primal indigenous peoples of Europe.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Ireland, we have loads of problems, but we have a very strong link with our indigenous culture, which other countries don't have.
We do actually.
That's
yeah.
that's the key, and that's why this country has such important work to do.
This country.
Yes.
Throughout the world.
No, here.
Here, first of all.
Here,
yeah.
first of all. And just tell you a story about something that happened in 1988. A lot of things happened for me. I walked in the sacred places of Ireland for the first time with a Native American Indian woman. I went to Iona for the first time.
Should one go to Iona?
Oh God, yes. It's the Mecca of the Gaels. It's just amazing.
Very special place.
Very special. But
My family home is called Iona.
oh really? Oh lovely.
After a Catholic nun who was my aunt, Sister Columba.
All right,
so
yes.
you can see the
Yeah,
link
yeah,
is-
link.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But also in that summer, I had a dream, and the only thing I remember from that dream was one line: Ireland will again become a light to the nations.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, and I never forgot it. And in 2009, this friend of mine, Mary, from outside Lisnaskea, she arrived to a Reiki group that I facilitate, and she paints through meditation. So she sat down and she said, "What does Dolores need to know?" And she brought this painting. And I went, "Oh my God, that's the dream I had 21 years ago." It was all dark purple, navy, sorry, and there were 12 stones, lapis lazuli stones, and gold and silver light. And in the middle is a blob. It's a map of Ireland. And I was like, oh my God, you know.
And the light is there.
The light was coming out. And
got-
it's really powerful.
And on Bridget's Way last year, the inaugural year, we had 2 Australian women
Oh, yeah.
from different parts of Australia. They didn't know each other. We had 2 Americans, a Danish woman, people from Scotland, England, and lots of Irish. And the reaction of these people
Oh yeah,
those rays of light went out right across the planet.
absolutely, Karen.
I mean, it's a big ask to come all the way from Australia. It's a lot of money to walk in our land. Well, what those women
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
I mean,
And what they
on
shared.
our website,
Yeah.
bridgetsway.ie website, there's testimonies from these women, both written and visual. And it was quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
We could see their journey unfold
Yeah.
before our eyes.
Absolutely.
As we took the steps
Absolutely.
in pilgrimage, the art of pilgrimage, the land was informing us. We're
Yeah, absolutely.
sandwiched between heaven and earth.
Yes.
And sometimes we walk contemplatively alone, sometimes we walk in together, companionable silence, sometimes it's a group and there's singing and laughter.
Yeah, yeah.
As I said, men, women, children, all ages. But people are stepping outside of their regular life.
Absolutely.
That headspace. And the heart begins to open. And magic happens.
Yes, absolutely, Karen.
And you can see it.
And if you saw us as we arrived into Kildare, I know personally I was exhausted when we left
Yeah, of
because there was
course.
so much work when we left to go.
Yeah, but then
we walked
you
into
grew
Kildare,
your strength on the thing.
But we grew it. We walked into Kildare really alive.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Anthony Murphy last night said. He talked about what you were talking about, Karen, about the headspace. And you see, that's why people go on pilgrimage. People go on pilgrimage so that they can divest themselves of their habitual lives, so that their real life can begin to be born in them. You see, we live in a society that is so extraordinarily controlled and controlling, but people don't even know they're controlled. People have no idea that they are completely controlled by the media, by bad news, by fear, by all of these things.
We're a good news program. By
I
the
know
way.
you are, and I'm delighted.
We don't do bad news.
I'm delighted, thank God for that. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like when you go on pilgrimage,
Yeah.
it's like you're invited. I mean, it's very interesting how popular the Camino is in Spain.
Oh, for goodness sake. Fantastic.
But
Yeah.
it's fun. Why are they going there? Because they need to step out of their lives and find out who they are. Because until you know who you are, you can't really know what your purpose is here.
Well,
and in the Irish tradition, there's a word called Dan, D-A-N. It means poem, but
Yeah.
it also means destiny.
Yes.
And your purpose. And it was when a person was a young person, they do this still in native traditions. You went on a vision quest to find
Yes,
out
of
what
course.
your Dan was.
Yeah. Same.
What was
yeah.
your Dan? What did you come here to do?
Yeah.
Not how can you make all this money?
No, for goodness sake, no. I had a meeting with a banker the other day, and my interest in banks is that they leave my overdraft alone, so that they'll get paid sometime. But I don't take it seriously, because I give things away as opposed to acquire things. And the most extraordinary thing, there are lots of extraordinary things happen, but in the business of my life, a long, long time ago, I found out that I was on a journey.
Okay.
Now that's the most extraordinary realization that any person can acquire.
Yes, of course it is.
Because you know that everything that happens is part of the waypoints on the journey.
Absolutely, good and bad.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
And that the timeline is taking you to the end of this part of the journey, which is huge. But my book at the end of July coming out, which you love the title, I think, Caritas et Amor, in the footsteps of love.
Oh, lovely.
And it's dedicated to the woman who gave me the name Rowan, my mother.
Oh, right, how lovely.
And when she died, and you will probably see a relevance in this. I did see a relevance in it, but I brushed it under the carpet. Maybe I should lift the carpet. But what happened was, when she died, I was a tower of strength for my entire family. Throughout six months, a year. But a year down the road, I was zapped. I was gone. And I remember going to sleep one night, putting my hand up and saying, if there is a God, and I hope there is, and I'm searching for you, I want some kind of help here, because I'm beaten. That night, I sat up, bolt upright in my bed, and saw the shape of my mother's back walking out through the door of the room. She was wearing her long night dress. I saw I thought, in seeing, I said, I'm dreaming. But no,
it was a waking dream.
Because I realized I had just come awake to see this. But then I remembered what was in the dream. And in the dream was the most extraordinary thing, because before she died, I had been with some people who knew her, and the people had said, they didn't know that I was there. They said that there was something happening, blah, 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 blah. But they saw the vision of birds in a tree, in a garden.
Right.
And they saw a bird locked in the room, trying to get out, but not realizing the window was open. So I listened to this.
Right. Okay.
But then that night, after having seen my mother walk out, I remember what I was dreaming. And what I was dreaming was very, very simple. The tree in my front garden, with the birds surrounding the face of my mother in the middle of the tree, and a luminosity coming from there. So here I had the dream about my mother in that particular thing, to the reality of seeing her image go out the door. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I'm a hard-nosed, lifelong, 60-year in journalism. That's what I have been. So I'm nobody's fool. At best, I'm an optimistic agnostic. But I know what I saw that night. I know what I dreamed that night. Now, is there some sort of connectivity beyond the decomposition and the death?
Oh, God, yes.
You think this?
Absolutely.
Well, what you experienced is known as the dream.
Really?
And when somebody passes away, and in this country we have a rich tradition of passing, wake, the wake,
yes.
the singing the soul home, and that usually, if you ask most people, somebody in the family will experience a sign that their loved one has gone to the heavenly realms, another place, the spiritual world. And it's often a vivid dream. And in the dream, I had one with my own father passed away. He was a young man, the age when I was only a toddler, but he was going out the door, backing out, waving, happy. So I'm going now, and often people have a significant photograph falls over, the same song keeps playing on the radio, a favourite song, there's a smell of perfume or tobacco, there's some connection with the person who's passed, but it's usually only one person in the family who is open or needs the sign, or who has asked for the sign.
My former, I still call her my wife would say, she lives in the family home where my mother and father lived, and she would say that she would often experience in the morning time the smell of tobacco in the room.
Yes.
And that my father, that's what killed him, the tobacco and all blah, 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 all of that. So there is all of that, and the constancy of outreaching. I think what I'd love us to do now is to tell the people about the last 10 minutes of our... Where does time go?
What is time?
It's time, I tell you. Do you know what is time? We were burying a dear lady, the last of the line of the women of the Hand clan.
All right.
Ailish was a nurse, a midwife, and her mother was a nurse and a midwife.
Yeah.
And two of my daughters are nurses and midwives.
Right.
It just, the whole thing goes
So
on
it's,
and on
it's
and on.
obviously a very...
Absolutely.
And it's very interesting, because what does the midwife do?
Brings
in
facilitates
life, but also
what Bridget
women
did for Mary.
Exactly, but also they bring people out to the other world as well.
Yes.
The women were hugely important at the
Yes.
coming in of life and at the leaving of life. And now we have medicated out of all these two processes. Terribly sad.
I took great joy when that banker said to me yesterday, what address are you on the voting register? I said, I don't vote. Full stop. But anyway, I've freed myself of a lot of that. But we want to tell people about Bridget's Way, about the pilgrimage, and about why it's important to so go. Here you are.
Thank you very much.
And there's
welcome.
the one, this is a local one for Dundalk, which might be
Wow.
important.
So we start on the 28th of June.
The 28th of June.
Which
You
is
got
a
it in your
Saturday.
notebooks there,
A
folks.
Saturday.
Yeah.
And we purposely start on the Saturday, so we have 2 weekends. 2 weekends up in the Fahrt and Dock area, and then we have the weekend we finish in Kildare, so that people don't need to take time off work
Okay.
if they can't.
Yeah.
So how do you physically do it? Where,
We walk.
You walk?
And then we stay in
Do you walk on
B&Bs.
motorways or
No,
the
no,
back
no,
road?
no.
You have a
work we have a very well
choreographed experience.
We're walking on ancient roads of Ireland, like we're walking on part of the Sliabh Maluchra, which goes from Tara to Armagh
Wow.
and then onto the north coast. That's part of what we're walking. We're also walking on an ancient part of a road that goes from Tara to the west coast. But we're walking, like interestingly, we're walking on the small roads, like the L roads. So they're very small roads. And we've purposely picked those so that we're not on motorways. We're not
Yes,
on
of
any
course.
motorway.
Yeah.
But also we walk through Donadee Forest Park, we walk down the canal, we walk
gorgeous.
through Sally Cox's land.
At Lisna Willie outside.
Yeah, listen, Willie, I'm looking at it here as you speak.
Stunning.
Yeah.
And even the small country roads, at this time of the year, the
it's
foliage
extraordinary.
Oh, yeah.
is spilling onto the roads. It's a portal to another world.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Do people need to belong to you, your
Not at
organisation,
all.
to
No,
do
we
this?
don't have an organisation. There's just
I
me and
obviously
Karen.
haven't been listening too well in the interview, I tell you.
No,
I understand.
One of the things that, as Karen says, we start in Fahrt on Saturday the 28th.
What time are you starting at in Falkirk?
2 o'clock.
2
on
o'clock.
Saturday.
So you
And
walk from Falkirk to where?
to Dundalk, but we're going through a beautiful route down through Fahrt to Kilcurry.
Yes,
Then
which
from
I know.
Kilcurry to Toberona, where there's a beautiful river. Then from Toberona to Fatima, up Mount Avenue, behind Cuchullin's Mound, and into Sally Cox's Deer Park.
Cuchullin's Mound, is that the...
It's near the Louis
Castletown
Convent.
Motte.
That's the obelisk.
No,
it's further out.
No. But
Yeah.
we're going then onto Sally's Land, and Sally's Land. Harold O'Sullivan, you might have known him. He was a historian in Dundalk. He maintains that there's part of the ancient route that goes through her land.
Yeah.
So we're walking through her land. What does it be, about a mile or two?
Easily.
Easily.
Yeah, okay.
A fabulous wild land.
Wow.
If they get on our website, they'll see it in the DVD.
Okay.
And then we come into Dundalk. So it's the most about 6 or 7 miles that first day.
But also at 2 o'clock in the Fire Shrine, we'll have ceremony there.
Yeah.
A lot of people visit and they see the healing stones and they don't really know, and then they see the wishes, the prayers tied into the trees, like
This
you
is
mentioned,
up
Rowan.
at Falkirk,
And
yeah.
they're not necessarily sure what's going on. So the Bridget of Fahrt Festival group that Dolores is a stalwart of, they're there to show their Fahrt to everybody, to bring the relevance of it alive. And then after the ceremony, to
Send us
off.
Yeah.
But they can only tell you the relevance of it to them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because they
We've
couldn't
got to find
possibly.
it.
No,
You've
no,
got to
no.
find your own relevance.
That's it. Yeah, it's part of the
And
journey.
actually, Nationwide did a piece on Fahrt that went out on the 5th of February. That was beautiful
Great
piece,
stuff.
really lovely. So and so then we're on the journey, And we're on the journey, and then the next day we walk from Dundalk to RD.
But where do you stay? You know,
in
do
B&B.
you all go home in the evening?
No,
or-
no. We have all the B&Bs booked,
Yeah,
all the
no,
evening
booked.
meals
Yeah.
booked. You know, people can stay, or they can drive home if they want to,
yeah.
and come back. But, you know, we won't go into that detail because it would take up too much
No,
time.
no.
That's
but
all on our
it's-
website.
It can be done, yeah.
But then we walk the next day from RD to Slane, and we
Yeah.
do beautiful ceremony at the Hill of Slane. Then the next day we go to the Hill of Tara. You see, these are all very iconic places in
Absolutely.
Ireland.
Yeah.
Marked down in the map.
yeah.
Anthony Murphy and Richard, in their book Island of the Setting Sun, they saw that there was an amazing alignment in the heavens and the earth.
Wow.
So the Cygnus, the swan constellation,
Yes.
was flying down the sky, and they realised that at the time of Bridget's birth, the tail of the swan was over Faughart, and the head of the swan was over Kildare. So out of curiosity, the two of them, they drew a line down the map and discovered,
And did the Google map, didn't
and
they?
the Google
Yeah,
star
yeah.
maps, that it bisected Mount Oriel, the Hill of Slane, the Hill of Tara, right down to the Rath and the
yeah.
Curragh. And when Anthony was giving this talk at the Bridget of Faughart Festival in Imbo 2 years ago, both Dolores and I, who really didn't know each other very well,
We'd only met, yeah.
were listening, inspired, and we thought, oh my God, I have to walk that.
Been most unscientific, dare I say,
9
about
days.
it.
And both of us
This
are
is totally
scientists.
heartfelt.
Yeah.
And then we realised we both wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And we figured out, let's do it together. It'll take 9 days. It's about 90 miles. You know.
But there was a friendship born at that moment
Absolutely,
as well, you
absolutely.
know, which was crazy.
And then, interestingly, a few months later, Karen and I had planned to go and do a recce
Yeah.
on the 26th or 27th of
Yeah.
August 2012. And a few weeks before that, Sally Cox phoned me, and she
Yes.
asked me to speak at this North-South event she was holding in her house.
Yes.
And I said, oh, will you put me on, not first thing, because I'm going to be away for 3 days. We were going away to do work, to chat. And she said, well, you know, it's very important you're here because did you know that a piece of the ancient path from Faughart to Kildare goes through my land?
Wow.
It was kind of, you know, and we had loads and loads of things like that.
Yeah.
You know. But we would really encourage people who maybe at this stage are not available to come for the whole walk to come to Faughart on the 20th. An awful lot of people from Newry and Northern Ireland love Faughart.
28th of June.
Saturday, and to
2
come
o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and there's no charge, but we just ask for a donation.
Ah, yeah. But people would do that. People would do that
Yeah,
anyway.
of course. Yeah, towards the
Bridget'sWay.ie. That's
Yeah,
the website.
that's the website.
Bridget'sWay.ie. This is well worth checking out. This is a huge bit of investigative spirituality, let's say.
I like
Yes,
this. Yeah, that's
that's
exactly
not a
what
bad
it
way to
is. That's
put it,
a
yeah.
great way to put
And
it.
if we're not on a journey, we're nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we're not on a journey, we're in a box that goes down into the ground.
Well,
full stop.
maybe just like you had that wonderful idea around the program where you did the course and then
Alpha
the next
course,
day.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
don't you come and then interview us and tell us how your journey was?
You could come for 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could come and join us on Faughart. You could come and join us in Tara. You know, and
Couple of hours.
I'm only hesitating for one very important reason I'm hesitating, and it's the Saturday, because I have a different pilgrimage on
Okay,
a Saturday
all right, okay.
into the very heart of Dublin.
Okay, all
and
right.
that's another
Okay,
story.
that's another-
But it's not a million miles
Yeah, away.
from what we're talking about here.
But you could maybe come to join us at Tara.
At Tara, yeah.
Yeah, and
the
that will-
Sunday is available.
Well, the
and,
Sunday we'll be walking from Dundalk to RD,
Yeah.
and we'll be going to Cuchulainn Stone probably, and then Monday we'll be going
Sunday
from RD.
sounds good.
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah,
sounds good.
and people say like, why bother doing this? Because what we're doing is, a question I always ask: why is somebody who lived 1,500 years ago? Why is that cult still alive? Why is that interest still there? And it's because that person held some kind of vision and energy that is still relevant.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing.
Relevance is
transcends
important.
time.
It transcends time.
It's like looking at the Mona Lisa or a Rodin sculpture and thinking, how come these are priceless and another painting isn't?
Yeah.
There's something of the artist, the soul piece
Yeah.
transcends time, so that when we look at this or hear that music, there's a connection, a soul connection. And literally, the land itself, as
Absolutely.
we walk, footstep by step, is speaking to us.
Absolutely.
The alignment that Dolores talked about, we come into alignment with our heart and soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an amazing thing.
And the thing about it is, like, when I started going to sacred places, I couldn't feel the energy because I didn't know what I was trying to figure it out with my head. But and every one of those sacred places has a different vibration and a different energy. And it's, as Karen said, like, when you start to walk in pilgrimage, something happens to your soul and your heart and your mind, and you never go back the same way.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, because having accepted a long time ago that I am on a pilgrimage of my life, a journey, a voyage, le voyage, I am there. I understand what you're talking about, you know. What have you got there?
A prayer of a pilgrim.
I like that.
Yeah.
We're almost finished, but we'll tell the people once more about the event, and then I would invite you to read the prayer of the pilgrim. And the event is the 9-day pilgrimage walk between the 28th of June and the 6th of July this year, from Faughart in County Louth to Bridget's monastic city, Kildare itself. You're going down to the Curragh of Kildare.
And the one day.
And you may actually go for the one day, you know, and that's the Faughart one.
Yeah.
So come to Faughart, 2 o'clock on Saturday the 28th of June, and experience what's going on there. And you find out all about it on the website, which is bridgetsway.ie. Now, what's the derivation of this prayer? Tell us about it.
Well, it's one I came across when I was preparing prayers for the pilgrimage. So
we'll tell Andrew, while you're doing that, Andrew will find some music for us.
Okay.
And Andrew, I think something you will, I'm sure, Benna, because he's very sensitive, will have spotted something very appropriate for us.
All right, so if I read 2 or 3 lines and then you.
Okay.
Creator God, you called me to take this journey. Your mysterious spirit drew me to this sacred land.
I ask for your blessing and your protection as I venture forth. Open my eyes that I may truly see you everywhere.
Open my ears that I may truly hear your voice.
Open every sense. Make me aware of your power and present always here.
Open my heart that I may experience your love and the quickening of your spirit.
It's very beautiful.
Gomeke, which means may it be so.
May it be so.
Yeah.
May it be so. Inshallah. God willing.
Inshallah.
God willing, yes. Yeah.
God,
Sha.
There's a Puerto Rican woman that says, if God wills it and the goddess allows it.
Nothing changes, does it? Thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank
Go
you.
well. Namaste.
Namaste.
Take care.